So I was like super depressed because I messed up. I botched trimming my beard and I had to cut it all off. But suddenly I don't care anymore because Killface's new motor is here.
Do you want to build a
Pro mod! Yes, I do. I would like that very much. Oh, yes, that's right. Beardless Rye is back, but not for long, hopefully. Hey, I was thinking about getting a new tattoo. It's going to be like Logan's stupid face, and then like born 1997, and then died TBD. But then I realized with this, we're going to bury him much sooner than later. This is my new to me 632 cubic inch all aluminum big block Chevy. And there's not a whole lot of Chevy about it other than the architecture and the maybe like the distributor hold down underneath there. That might be a General Motors. But generally speaking, this is 100% a bad unit. How did this come to be? Why am I staring at big block with a pair of carburetors and nitrous, right? I thought you were an LS turbo guy. Well, my LS powered stuff is not going anywhere. It's just not going in here. So all these goodies will be repurposed. But this, well, these are not going to hang around for too long. It's just a matter of time before it all goes away and gets completely converted to EFI and a whole bunch of boosts being thrown down it. But enough about that. How did we get here? What happened? Well, about a year ago, I had a Dart Block 427 lined up. Unfortunately, that deal fell through because the owner was like, I don't feel comfortable. There's some issues with it, and I don't want it to fail on you in the future. Cool. I totally understand. Got full refund. And so I was left sans motor. A motorless Killface is not very fun. It sure is pretty to look at ever since we got it back. And when I dropped it off with Eric Yost for all the chassis stuff, I did tell him, like, I don't know what we're putting in it, so don't put a motor plate, mid plate, trans-cross member, just don't worry about it. Leave it a blank slate. And I foreskinned that in the previous video. Foreshadowed, sorry. Foreskin is, you know, I've said too much. So this is what is going to end up going in here. How did we get this? Where did this motor come from? Well, this is actually the motor that came out of Nick Taylor, aka Nicky Bobby. This came out of Uncle Sam, his 3rd gen Camaro. I've seen this motor run at a no prep event when he first got the car, and it sounds absolutely amazing. That's right, this motor does in fact run. Like, there's the other valve cover. I was just drooling over all the goodness. So Nick pulled this out to put a twin turbo LS based combination in his car and gone on to go very, very fast. And he sold this to Robert Young, the wizard, the mastermind behind Force Performance and all their wicked ass turbos. And Robert initially planned on putting this in a boat. That's right. But he quickly realized that this motor isn't exactly, well, cut out for marine application. So here's the owner of a turbo company with a big block nitrous combination sitting in his showroom and nothing to put it in. And we got to talking. He said, hey, you have a super sick chassis. I got a super sick motor that I don't know a whole lot about big block or nitrous. And I said, I have this guy named Scott from Drag Week who knows a whole bunch about both of those things. And here we are. We struck a deal. So what are we going to do with it? Well, like I said, this thing's a runner. It's complete. Oil pan with the 4-stage dry sump up to the twin Gary Williams, whoever that guy is. I'm sure he's pretty good at what he does because looking at some of the numbers and pricing on these things, these are a pretty penny for these pieces. So water pump to the flex plate, coil sitting over there. Literally this thing needs oil, fuel, and something to control the spark, and this thing will make noise. Nick is actually sending me the headers, and I have a local engine dyno shop at my disposal that we may actually strap this thing up and see what it will pump out in its current form. I'm hoping, I would venture to guess that it would push out north of 1,000 horsepower on like C16. So we may do that. Let us know in the comments. You want to see this thing on the engine dyno? Do you want to see me put it in the car NA and run it? Because the way I have to look at it, like, we put it in here like this, with my Power Glide, wire it up, we could be on the track a whole hell of a lot sooner than the long-term goal for this motor. And before we get into that, this is what we're actually looking at here. So like I said, it's complete. This is actually a former IHRA Pro Stock mountain motor. So if you guys are unfamiliar with what mountain motor is, well, Pro Stock is a class of drag racing. Most notable one being the NHRA. And the rules are pretty simple. Naturally aspirated 500 cubic inch engine limit, just to put it in the simplest of terms. That makes people push very, very hard when you're cubic inch limited. And like most things in racing, the almighty dollar usually ends up winning. And it's usually the people who can go out. Anybody can build a 500 inch motor if you got a checkbook. But not everybody has a deep enough pockets to go out and spend the money to push the envelope and develop the cubic inch limited combination. So it sounds a little weird, but they said to keep costs down, let's just take the gloves off. Build them as big as you want to. Like, screw development. If you want to run like a 500 cubic inch motor that somebody spent millions, just build a 632 or a 706 or whatever. So mountain motor is basically anything that's over 500 cubic inches. And that's what this is. It's a 632 cubic inch motor. The reason that's weird is it's only 632. This is an 11.7 inch deck height. So from the center line of the crank to the bottom of the cylinder head, that's 11.7 inches of height. A standard small block, big block Chevy from the factory is around, like, I think lower 10s or something like that. 10 to, I'm not exactly sure off the top of my head. Again, I'm a newly converted big block Chevy guy. So you can get 632 cubic inches out of a traditional factory block style GM big block. Well, this one's got probably, we haven't taken it apart, but we're assuming it's got an insanely long rod because it has titanium rods in it, and a longer rod gives you a better rod ratio. So this thing was built to run naturally aspirated competition. So it was probably originally designed and intended to spin 1,000,000 RPM, at least for what a big block is. Valve train wise, the cam it's a monster. 820 thousandths lift. It's stupid. These are not 3/8 inch extensions. These are the push rods. Full T&D shaft mount system on here. Dart 18-degree Big Chief heads. A Hogan sheet metal intake. And it does have a fogger. It actually had 2 foggers on here. This motor, allegedly in a 2,600 pound car, went 490s and then potentially 430s in the 8th mile on spray, which that is not a slouch. So that's about the extent of what we know about it. I mean, we have the paperwork, these 3 pieces of paper that came with it. Unfortunately, the original engine builder, I think this motor was built in around 2004, has passed away. The motor was refreshed in 2014, almost 9 years ago now. That guy's also passed away. The guy who built the car originally that Nick bought with this motor in it, you guessed it, he's also passed away. So I really hope this motor's not cursed. I just thought about that. Ooh. So the person, it's not, can't be, because the one person I did talk to was Alan Root himself, the guy who made the block. Who is Alan Root? Alan Root has been doing a lot of stuff in the high performance world. I found out after scouring the internet to try to find out information on this motor. Alan's like, here's how far back it goes. He built the motors for like Bigfoot 1 and 2, the original monster trucks. So this guy has been around for a while. So he was making these blocks for Sonny Leonard, another gentleman who's passed away, but is responsible for building these insane 1,000 cubic inch motors. You can see him and drool all over them at PRI if you've ever gone. So this is originally a Sonny Leonard motor. The only thing Alan could tell me is that he did a lot more big block Ford than he did big block Chevy, but he had a variety of deck heights, cylinder head patterns, and unfortunately the only thing he could tell me, which made me feel real good and warm and fuzzy in my plums, was that I said, how much power do you think this motor can handle? He said that block will laugh at 3,500 to 4,000 horsepower. And I said, thank you, sir. That's all I need to know. To truly appreciate the mass of this entire motor, I have set it next to an LS cylinder head. These are my old Trickflow 245 heads that have been worked over by BTR, Brian Tooley Racing. Shout out to them. These will be repurposed in another project. Obviously, it's going to have a whole bunch of boost thrown down its throat as well. So we're not done with this stuff. But compare these ports. 18-degree Dart Big Chief. I have massive hands. I'm 6'5", and my hands are huge. I rarely meet somebody that can. And this, it's like 2 fingers. Like, that's not a small port for an LS. Everything is. Look at the amount of material on the deck. Everything about this motor is gargantuan. From the oil pan to the top of the carburetors, it is 38 inches. When you measure that in this car, it puts the top of the carburetors about a third of the way up the windshield. I don't think the valve covers are going to clear the top of the fenders, let alone find a hood reasonable enough to cover up any amount of the motor. I don't really give a shit. I just want to stare at it. So we have an extremely stout foundation to build off of here, and I am beyond excited to open it up a little bit and see what's inside of this thing. I want to hear it, and I really need to. Let me know in the comments. What do you think? Do we slap it in the car, get out there, start racing it as soon as possible, or do we have patience, take the long road, convert it over to turbo to street use? It's gonna get turboed, I promise you that. But it's just kind of like, do we do it now or do we do it later? I'm kind of leaning towards later, because the more I stare at it, the more I just want to hear it in the car. Whew! So there you go. Big BBC guy now. Wait. Don't Google that. Don't Google that.
Oh my God, you dumpy f***ing call me back. I call, and you never pick up, and your horseshit ass voicemail is literally such a lie. It says, hey, Avery's right, can't get to my phone right now, which is horseshit because you literally don't go anywhere without your phone. I could absolutely 1000% assure anybody that your phone is probably in your fucking hand. You just decide, I don't want to pick it up. I don't want to answer the phone. What could you possibly be doing that's more important than picking a phone up to talk to me? There's literally not a single, unless you're trying to count how many skin cells you've lost on the base of your, because all you do is beat your pud all day. You skinless, weird fucking asshole, piece of shit.